We're going to start the session with the use of the word pressure. It's an 8-letter word, but it often makes the difference between winning and losing a World Cup. And I'm going to start with the oldest man on our panel, because he won the first World Cup. Because the general feeling, Clive Lloyd, was the West Indies team in 1975 and 79 was so good that you didn't have to deal with a word called pressure. You were just too good for the rest. And you were seen as the cool cat. That's how you were called. They called you the cool cat. Were you as cool as the world believes you were?
But I think in 1975 we weren't the top dogs, and I think Australia was a better team. They were the better team, and people probably thought they would be, the winners of the trophy. But I think we gelled together in the sense that most of our players, we started here under my captaincy, and that's why I have a sort of great affinity with India. And we gelled together rather quickly. And a lot of our players played county cricket, and they got accustomed to playing one-day cricket. So really, we weren't that bad a side, but we weren't the number one side. So the pressure was on, and I think the game that really brought it home is when we played Pakistan, and we needed 65 to win, 14 overs to go, and the last pair in. So if you talk about pressure, that was pressure. I drank about 15 bottles of pale ale, actually.
You drank 15 bottles of?
Pale ale. Because my accountant, funny enough, came in the dressing room and he said we were going to win. And he said, oh, well, I've decided that you will win this game, and he put some money on it, I presume. And we came through in the end. So I was quite, sort of pleased about that. And we thought from there on in that we wouldn't lose the trophy, because it was a very sort of tight situation.
I presume I shouldn't be asking you what you were drinking after you won the World Cup, right?
Oh, well, there's a lot stronger stuff than that.
A lot stronger stuff. Okay, great. Likewise, Allan Border, winning that World Cup in India in 1987. It was a tough time for Australian cricket. You hadn't won anything for a very long time. You hadn't won a World Cup, and you were struggling as a team, and yet you come to India and pull off a remarkable win. What is it that takes one team to win a World Cup? Is it about who handles the pressure, or is it simply about who's the best on that given day?
There's no doubt there's a unique pressure involved in playing in a World Cup, because it only comes around every 4 years. It's growing in stature. Every World Cup that's been is getting bigger and bigger. So there's different pressures that come with playing in a World Cup, because as a player you might only ever play in one World Cup, so it's and that one chance to show your skills and play in such a big tournament. So when I think back to 1987, we were very much an underdog team, very young side. A very young Stephen Waugh was in that group that we brought to India. We were a bit fortunate in that a lot of the players that played in the 1987 World Cup had toured India in 1986. So we were a little bit accustomed to the conditions that we were going to face in 1987. And we were quite fortunate in that year in that we sailed under the radar a fair bit because of a very young side, unfancied. And the thing that I do remember very strongly is we had a very good preparation. We were in Chennai for about a week, 10 days before the first match. Our first two matches were in Chennai. So we were able to get accustomed to the conditions pretty quickly. And we had a fantastic first game against the hosts, India, where it was a one-run victory, and the momentum just built from there.
Is it more difficult? Do you think the pressure is more on you when you play in India than any other part of the world? Is India unique in that sense? You're faced with 60,000 people, not a single one cheering Australia. Is it much more difficult to handle pressure in India than any other part of the world?
Look, it's the fervour of the cricket fans here is second to none. I don't think there's any... but I think there's probably more pressure on the host nation, India. The expectation is so high. So when I think about the World Cups I played in 1992 in Australia, there was probably more pressure because you are the host nation, so the expectation is higher. But certainly in this part of the world, there's unique pressures because the expectation from the crowds is so high.
Actually, Arjuna Ranatunga, you were the first captain to win a World Cup, in a sense, in the host country? Because Sri Lanka was one of the co-hosts of the 1996 World Cup. And as Allan Border says, pressure is probably the greatest on the host country, which is why host countries often find it difficult to win a World Cup. India won it, of course, in 2011. Was there greater pressure on you because you were playing in the subcontinent? Or were you just happy that you were playing the final in Pakistan and not in Colombo?
I think we were the underdogs when we started the tournament. No one expected us to win a tournament. And take from 1975, not a single time we could qualify for the second round, not even the semis or the finals. But we had a lot of plans. We did a lot of homework before the tournament. But we were very lucky that Australia and West Indies didn't play the first round. So I started with 4 points. So I knew that I was in the quarterfinals straight away. And the only time we realized that we were a really good side when we came to Delhi, beat India in Delhi. That's the time all these youngsters realized that we have a very good chance in the World Cup. And coming back to the pressure part, once again we played the quarterfinals in Pakistan, semis in India, and finals away in Pakistan. So we never had the pressure sort of thing created by the Sri Lankans.
No, because whenever anyone saw Arjuna Ranatunga on the field, you seemed very relaxed. It almost seemed that you were, on a Sri Lankan beach at times. You never seemed agitated. I never saw you getting agitated once or twice, maybe on a cricket field.
I think you should ask that question from my colleagues. They will give a different answer, but I always wanted to keep cool. I never put pressure on the other cricketers. I always absorb pressure. And what I did, I wanted to get 100% or the best from the other players, and that's what exactly I did.
Your body language was very different to Arjuna Ranatunga. Arjuna Ranatunga always looked very cool on a cricket field, and Sourav Ganguly from time to time always looked agitated on a cricket field. Was that pressure getting to you, or was it simply the way you were? What is this word pressure? What does it really mean?
You spoke about body language, and quite different from Arjuna. In India we always hear this word that India is a sleeping giant. And at times I felt with my team that with so much of talent, they were a sleeping giant and I had to wake them up. And I'm not that sort of a person what you see on a cricket field. Off the field, I'm a completely different laid-back person. But I had to get the team going because there was so much talent in that side. And it never delivered at the right time, especially overseas. So, it started from the tour of Australia in 2001 when Steve came down, and I realized that suddenly if the side's pumped up and if the side's fighting, we look a much better side than if we are just allowed to India.
Steve was here, so we're not going to talk about the instance where you kept him waiting. We'll probably ask him that, about a toss which you actually kept Steve Waugh waiting, and you didn't come. Was that part of trying to get the pressure on the other side? Was it a deliberate tactic to get under the skin of Steve Waugh?
No, I was searching for my blazer. It was lost somewhere in the dressing room.
That's a bad excuse. He's laughing. He doesn't believe it. After all these years, he's not going to believe that you kept him waiting on a cricket field because you were not giving him your blazer.
It's 14 years. I've forgotten the reason. It's been 14 years now. And it's always been great to play with Steve. He's been such a champion. And to see him bat and see him win games for Australia has been really fabulous.
But let me ask you specifically about pressure. 2003, Mr. Puri spoke about that match in Johannesburg, the final, which we lost. And many believe we lost it in that first hour when our bowlers just didn't, seemed to be under pressure. There were a lot of no balls, there were full tosses, there were wides. Was it pressure? Is a World Cup final particularly about pressure?
Yeah, it is. And I think we were under pressure right throughout the tournament. I remember after the first game, we managed to beat, Holland. It was a very close game. And we heard back in India that stones were thrown at the houses, the windows were broken, cars were broken. So Indian cricket team goes through this all the time. It's not the first time, and it will not be the last time. And I'm sure something will happen before the 2014 World Cup, 15 World Cup in Australia as well. So we are used to this pressure as Indians. And over the years, I've seen that if there's a little bit of a shake-up with Indian cricket, they do well. You see what happened in England. We lost the series 3-1, and then there was a bit of a shake-up. Everything was changed. And in a week's time, we looked a different side. So we Indians at times, I think, react to pressure because it's a part and parcel of Indian cricket. You have to deal with at all stages of of their life. On a Monday, you'll be the worst team in the world, and 2 victories. By Saturday, you're the best team in the world. So we deal with this, and we've got used to this.
So pressure is greater in a sense on an Indian team than a Sri Lankan team, a West Indies team, and an Australian team, possibly.
Yeah, possibly, because a lot more exposure, a lot more media, a lot more people interested in the game. I'm sure there will be pressure on those countries as well, but somehow I get a feeling that there's a bit more when India plays.
Is that true? Do we all agree with that? Allan Border, do you agree? Pressure is greater on an Indian team because, this is our number one sport. In Australia, at least, you have a few other sports that you guys are good at.
We have football as well.
We have football as well, says Sourav Ganguly, but we are number 150 in football. So let's not get football in it. Yes.
I remember talking to Mohammed Azharuddin one day, and I was talking about the pressures of being the Australian captain and the expectations, etc., and he said to me, Alan, you should try being a Muslim and captaining the Indian cricket team. That's pressure.
I'll talk about pressure in Indian cricket. I was captain in 2000. When I just became captain in 2000, I would come back from a game in the evening, and I would be scared to open the television because there used to be a channel and a show used to go on. So every time I would switch the TV on, I would close my eyes, that I would miss that by trying to flick through the channel, hope that doesn't come on TV. And my mother-in-law asked me one day, what is it about that show and you? Why do they keep hammering you all the time? And as an Indian captain, you have to deal with that most of the number of times.
So do you believe captain should not watch television? You should not watch Aaj Tak when the World Cup is on?
No,
is it bad news to be watching a cricket channel when the World Cup is on because you feel the pressure even more than?
No, it was in Aaj Tak, and I'm sure my friends in Aaj Tak know which one I'm talking about. And that was very special. And I would really actually be scared to open the TV at 7 o'clock in the evening.
No, I remember that program. I won't mention the program, but
it's good to know that he has such good rapport with his mother-in-law.
That's right. But Arjuna Ranatunga, did it benefit in that sense to come from a smaller country, that you had fewer? The crowd support was perhaps less frenzied than it is in India, and that enabled you to be a little bit more relaxed.
I think one good thing is that people back home understand the game much better. I think they are not so crazy as the Indian public. And the important part is they treat cricket as a game rather than a religion in this part of the world. And I personally felt now that it's getting a little out of hand. I think after winning a World Cup, then a 2020, people are expecting the Sri Lankans to win as much as possible. But coming back to the pressure subject, I always feel the team who absorb pressure properly will have a better chance of winning. That's what if you take from 75 up to now, the team which has won the World Cup has absorbed pressure maybe by 1 or 2 players, maybe by the 11 players, and that's a key fact. It's all about absorbing pressure and try to release the pressure in different ways.
Are you admitting now, 31 years later, that overconfidence killed you that day?
Well, it could be. It could be there, and then we just didn't play well in the day. Because if you bowl a side out for 183 and you have 60 overs to make it 3 and over, so it is not a situation where we had to go hell bent for leather. I think we played very unintelligent cricket during that day, and India was better by far against us on that day.
Is there something about Buddhism? Is there something about Buddhism that makes you so calm? Are you telling all this audience maybe we should all convert to Buddhism if we want to remain calm in our lives? Is there the Buddhist in Arjuna Ranatunga that makes you calm even when you were captain? You're ready to convert to Buddhism. Go ahead.
I think you should not ask that question from Steve and Ricky. They will tell me whether I'm calm or not. But generally, I come from a Buddhist family, and I have been going through most of the processes. But it's not the Buddhism. It's all about how you cope that particular day. When you take the '96 World Cup side, we had one greatest cricketer in my side, that is Arvinder. We knew that if he is going to perform, that we have a pretty good chance to win a tournament, which he did, and he was very keen to perform from the time he got into the field. And we knew that was the last time we will have a better chance of winning, because that the next World Cup was in England. Then by the time to 1999, most of us will retire. And we had 5 senior cricketers. I think we were the most experienced side that on that particular tournament. We had something like 900 and close to 1,000 one-day games experience, which none of the other teams had. Now if you take the present sides, they have something like 2,000 one-day games experience. But that particular side, I personally felt that with the experience with the seniors, and what Clive said, that particular day we played much better cricket than Australians. They were a better side. They were target to win the tournament, but I'm sure that we played a little better cricket.
Allan Border, do you want to convert to Buddhism? Is there something about the Australian character that enables you all to handle pressure better than others? Many believe that the Australians are better at handling pressure than most. Is there something to that, or do you believe this is just imagination?
Look, we've got a very tough upbringing with our domestic cricket in Australia, so therefore, you're used to playing cricket under pressure. But I don't think I'm personally a very calm, cool type character out in the cricket field. I do react and get agitated, so maybe I do have to convert to Buddhism just to calm down a notch.
That's right. The influence of being calm on a cricket field is one way to handle pressure. Let me get just one or two more questions if there are any more from the audience. Anyone? Yes? The gentleman in the blue, yes.
Still wondering how India lost as badly as they did in the 96 semi-finals. As the captain of the team which won that game, how do you look back at the way the result went?
We were lucky that particular day. I think it was slightly underprepared wicket, but tell you honestly, we were planning to bat second. We had a tournament where we were very successful of chasing. So it was, apart from Aravind, everyone wanted to bat second. But Aravind is a guy who wants to bat first, even on a greenish track. And I personally feel to win a World Cup, you need a little bit of luck, which we had on that semi-finals and even the finals. Like you take the semi-finals, I lost the toss. I was praying to lose that toss, because the players wanted to bat second. The wicket may crumble in the second session, which happened in the second session, especially when India lost 2 wickets. So overall, I personally felt after getting 240, we knew that we could easily win that game if we get Sachin Tendulkar out. And when Sachin was batting, no one thought that the wicket was bad. As soon as Sachin got out, and wicket started crumbling, turning, jumping, and most of the Indian batsmen struggled to cope up with our spinners. And I think when we played here, we never had any pressure. We were playing in front of 100,000 people, and I'm sure that there were about 15 Sri Lankans. So the pressure never got to us. And when we went to Lahore, we had more Sri Lankans in the finals, and there were Pakistanis who were supporting us, and I thought that is one place we had little pressure. Some of the seniors had little pressure, but I personally felt that we coped up very well.
I'm going to end this session by asking Sourav Ganguly that sometimes to relieve pressure, you have to take out your shirt, bare your shirt on the balcony of Lords. Was that part of relieving your pressure? One thing is about dealing with pressure. Another thing is when you actually win the match and then you want to relieve the pressure, is the best way to do that, remove your shirt.
All I can say is that you make mistakes in life, and that was one of the mistakes I made. So, but happiest side of it is that we were on the winning side. We lost a few finals before that, 3 or 4 finals, and it was getting a bit frustrating. We lost that game also. We were 150 for 6, chasing 325, and then went on to win the game. So it was a bit of a satisfaction and a bit of a relief as well.
Pleasure talking to all of you and your views on handling pressure. Ladies and gentlemen, Sourav Ganguly, Arjuna Ranatunga, Clive Lloyd, Allan Border, give them a big hand.